Biscuits in this factory, twice baked. Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GBNews.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, Matt. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
On Mark Dolan tonight, it's a Tory leadership special with full reaction to tonight's live TV debate, which aired at 7 p.m. on ITV. It made for explosive viewing. But who were the winners and the losers? Tackling that question and many more on my panel tonight of columnist, lawyer and presenter Rebecca Jane, political commentator and broadcaster Maya Toosey, and The Telegraph's Olivia Utley. Plus, reacting further to that Tory debate, politics legend and ex-health minister Edwina Currie, as well as two serving Tory MPs. They've both got skin in the game, folks. James Sunderland and Alex Burghardt, live on the programme at 9:20. My Mark Meets guest is Emmerdale legend Fraser Hines. You'll know his face. Of course, he played Joe Sugden for 22 years. He tells his amazing story at 10. And in my big opinion, I'll give you my latest thoughts on who should be our next Prime Minister. It's a fast-moving situation. So, a big 2 hours to come. You won't want to miss a second of our Tory leadership special. You've just got time to get the kettle on. Here are the headlines with Simon Pusey.
Thanks, Mark. I'm Simon Pusey in the GB newsroom. The 5 remaining candidates in the Tory leadership contest have taken part in the second televised debate. Rishi Sunak, Penny Mordaunt, Liz Truss, Tom Tugendhat and Kemi Badenoch clashed over taxes and the cost of living crisis. The candidates also had a chance to explain why they were the clear choice to be Prime Minister. Liz Truss said the country was on the brink of a recession due to Rishi Sunak's increase in taxes.
The fact is that raising taxes at this moment will choke off economic growth and it will prevent us getting the revenue we need to pay off the debt.
Rishi Sunak, respond to Liz Truss.
I mean, we have to also recognise that we just went through a once-in-a-century pandemic with all the damage that it did to our economy, and I think everyone realises that we were going to have to pay that back. But I'd love to stand here. I'd love to stand here and say, look, I'll cut this tax, that tax and another tax, and it will all be OK. But you know what? It won't.
Meanwhile, Kemi Badenoch accused Tom Tugendhat of not having enough experience to lead the government, accusing him of not having to make tough decisions.
Serving in government is not easy. It requires taking difficult decisions. Tom has never done that. It's very easy for him to criticise what we've been doing. But we have been out there on the front line making the case for why we have done the right thing.
I've been on the front line in Afghanistan and Iraq, and I've been on the front line of the argument against Putin and against China. I've changed government policy on this.
But you haven't taken any decisions. It's easy to talk. Talking is easy. Talking is easy.
Meanwhile, Penny Mordaunt says she should be the next Prime Minister, claiming she is the only candidate that can beat Labour at the next general election.
There's a couple of things that we need in order to win a next general election. One of them is me as the Prime Minister, because the polling shows that I'm the only one that can beat Keir Starmer and take the fight to Labour. I beat him all over the country. I beat him in London. I'm polling best in Scotland with young people, red wall, blue wall seats. That's why I am subject to a great deal of focus.
In other news, train companies are advising people not to travel over the next 2 days as forecasters predict extreme temperatures. Avanti West Coast has updated its advice to travel only if absolutely necessary, whilst London North Eastern Railway is urging people not to travel at all on Tuesday. The Health Secretary has said extra measures are being put in place for ambulances, with an amber extreme heat warning in for most of Britain today and the first red alert for tomorrow and Tuesday, covering a large part of England with temperatures predicted to reach 40 degrees Celsius. And the Queen and the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge have been wishing Camilla a very happy 75th birthday. William and Kate shared photos with birthday tributes on Twitter, along with Buckingham Palace, who also released an official photograph of the Duchess of Cornwall to mark the occasion. It shows Camilla sitting smiling at a garden table. The picture was taken last month in the gardens of Camilla's retreat in Wiltshire. TV, online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Now it's back to Mark Dolan tonight.
Welcome to Mark Dolan Tonight. It's a Tory leadership special with full reaction to tonight's live TV debate, which aired at 7 p.m. on ITV. It made for explosive viewing. So who were the winners and losers? Helping me dissect that are my brilliant panel tonight of columnist, lawyer and presenter Rebecca Jane, political commentator and broadcaster, YouTube sensation Maya Toosey, and The Telegraph's Olivia Utley. Plus, we'll hear from politics legend ex-health minister Edwina Currie and two serving Tory MPs who have skin in the game. They are the immediate electorate, James Sunderland and Alex Burkhardt, alive at 9:20. Is Rishi Sunak too rich to be Prime Minister? Is Kemi Badenoch really ready for the top job? And which candidate do Labour fear the most? Those are the burning issues of the night, and we'll get them answered with my wonderful wide spectrum of expert guests. My Mark Meets guest is Emmerdale star Fraser Hines. Of course, he played Joe Sugden in the soap for 22 years. He's had an amazing career. Doctor Who, Coronation Street, the Bond film Live and Let Die. He tells his story at 10. Away from Westminster, should schools close during the heatwave? And are you ever too old for a tattoo? And should I get one? Mark at gbnews.uk. Of course, I want to hear from you throughout the show. The best part of the programme is when you get in touch. I want to know who you think should be Britain's next Prime Minister. Mark at gbnews.uk. Now, this programme has a golden rule. What is that rule? We don't do boring. Not on my watch. I just won't have it. So for the next 2 hours, big debates, big guests, and always big opinions. Let's start with this one. The beauty contest turned ugly tonight. The race for the Tory leadership saw the famous five slug it out over tax, immigration and women's rights. Sunak, with his polished delivery and coherent message, may be winning a few minds, but it's Tory hearts that still evade him. MPs will undoubtedly flock behind the former Chancellor, but there's still no evidence the grassroots will back him in the final two. Is it because his wife is rich? Because he stabbed Boris in the front, or because his leadership bid has been longer in the pipeline than the sequel to Avatar? True blue, quite literally. Rishi hasn't had the click yet. It's a solid campaign he's running, but the dial has not been moved, which is why, for now, he still looks like the runner-up when all of this is done. Liz Truss raised her game slightly tonight. This highly experienced cabinet minister knows all about reinvention and is someone who has atoned brilliantly for the Tory sin of voting Remain by becoming the face of global Britain and all of those fantastic trade deals that she negotiated. But she's got to give up the Margaret Thatcher Tribute Act. She was famously photographed on a tank to copy her hero. Here's the original. And here's the stunt double. Not quite as good. And for the first TV debate, she was widely mocked for dressing a bit like the Iron Lady. Apparently, and I'm told by friends, that that particular knot that she's wearing on her blouse is called a pussy bow. That's right, a pussy bow. The less said on that, the better. Family show. Then there's real-life action man himself, Tom Tugendhat. He who dares wins. Or maybe not. Why is he still turning up to these hustings when he clearly has no chance of winning? Has his wife bought him a load of new suits that he's keen to show off? Or is he just addicted to the free sandwiches you get in the green rooms of those TV studios? He's certainly not there to become our next Prime Minister. I'm no Carol Vorderman. I've got a rubbish bum for starters. But the numbers for Tugendhat just don't add up. However, he has done well in the debates, in the way that Nick Clegg surprised everyone in the run-up to the 2010 general election. Do you remember Clegg-mania? Well, we may now be in the throes of Tugend-mania. But like a dose of Omicron, I suspect it will pass in the next couple of days. Then there's Penny Mordaunt. A penny for your votes, less is Mordaunt. Tonight, she delivered a solid, even-handed performance on a range of issues. But she's made the mistake that any sprinter in the 400 metres will tell you is a no-no, being in front early in the race. Tory MPs and the membership have suddenly had to take this woman seriously as our future Prime Minister, and with that, have noticed her rather progressive, arguably unconservative values. Now, David Davis, a brilliant politician and a very nice man, has been on Twitter defending his friend, yelling, "She's not woke! She's not woke! These woke slurs are so offensive!" I'm sorry, David, she is woke. Take a look at this.
Trans men are men, trans women are women.
Oy vey! There's been a rebuttal to those claims about Mordaunt from Baroness Williams, refuting that Mordaunt backed self-ID. What is self-ID? It's when a biological male rocking the full meat and two veg can just randomly call himself a woman and enjoy women's rights. So, the Baroness says it's not true that Mordaunt is for that, but the Sunday Times today beg to differ. They write that papers drawn up by civil servants appear to show that Mordaunt was in favour of removing at least one medical requirement needed by transgender people to transition when she was Equalities Minister. That opens the door, folks, to self-ID. I'm sorry, but I don't want a vagina denier in number 10. Plus, she's been keeping dodgy company of late. Tyrannical vaccines and lab meat entrepreneur, Mr. Dystopia himself, obese health guru Bill Gates. Gates has written a glowing introduction to the aforementioned book by Penny Mordaunt about the future of this country, a book described by the broadcaster Toby Young in excoriating terms. Young writes, "I've just been flicking through Penny Mordaunt's book. Glowing forward by Bill Gates, full of praise for China, relentless promotion of the LGBTQ+ agenda, wants to ditch the MBE and OBE, thinks more hate speech should be censored. A great pitch for the leadership of the Labour Party." Have you heard enough? Well, it continues. The Guardian love Mordaunt too, heralding her eco agenda today. And what may be the final straw for the Tory membership is the praise that she has received from one Tony Blair, who said her book outlining the country's future is very important. If that commendation doesn't put off Tory party members, nothing will. That's like receiving kind words of praise on family values from Fred West. And then there's Kemi Badenoch, the surprise candidate, a true fiscal and social conservative, an engineer who wants to look at data and rethink our economy and our society. Praise the Lord. And she's un-PC. When she saw two unisex toilets at her campaign launch venue during the week, she stuck a men's toilet symbol on one door and a women's toilet symbol on the other. She's young, she's clever, she's got energy, and she could just be the unexpected star that Margaret Thatcher was all the way back in 1975, when she became the leader of the Conservative Party. She was not the first obvious choice. Personally, if I can't have Rishi, I'll bite your hand off for Badenoch. And it's my profound hope that it goes down to those two in the final round. If Rishi can't win the final round, then the other candidate, in my view, has to be Badenoch. As an anti-woke, highly talented woman of colour who flipped burgers at McDonald's in her youth, she would be Labour's worst nightmare. I actually think their heads would explode. Is it time now to follow the Kemi trail? Dare the Tories look to the future and roll the dice on this young talent? With every day that goes by, I further warm to the idea. I've got a touch of Kemi fever. So the race continues and the plot thickens. It's a real page-turner. Let's pray for a happy ending. Reacting to that and the big stories of the day are my all-star panel tonight. Columnist, lawyer and presenter Rebecca Jane, political commentator and broadcaster and YouTube star Maya Toosey, and The Telegraph's Olivia Utley. Maya, let me start with you. Have you got Kemi fever? Because I have.
I do have a soft spot for Kemi. The biggest issue is that does she actually have a chance? And also the last couple of debates, she didn't really stand out. And I think that was the biggest problem that she had tonight. It was all about the Rishi Sunak show. And it was all about him. But she gave the right answers. I'm not backing anybody technically in this race, but she's saying all the right things. But the problem actually she has is that she's running a membership campaign in the first stage, which is about the parliamentary stage. She has a great grassroots campaign and everything else, but it's not really right for this round. That's the problem.
What are your thoughts about this, Rebecca Jane? Who stood out for you in that debate tonight?
Oh, Kemi has stood out in every single one of them. And absolutely the rest of them could all go home for me. I think it's really quite simple. She's the only one who seems to be talking any sense, and all the rest of them are just talking about hot air. So I'm going to go the opposite of you, and I'm going to firmly nail my... What's the word that we want to say
Conviction.
here? But yeah, conviction. There we go. That's it. That's my team. I'm done. I'm out. She's the only one that I think has credibility, respect. And we're talking about honesty, and she says that she's the candidate of honesty. We've not had that for many years now, so I'm all for it.
There you go. Rebecca Jane backs Kemi. Brilliant to have you back on the programme, Olivia Utley. Have I been too hard on Penny Mordaunt?
Oh, no, you haven't been nearly hard enough on Penny Mordaunt. She was just, again, full of platitudes, completely empty platitudes. I saw someone saying that she's like Blairism without any of Blair's analysis or ideas or people. She's much worse than Tony Blair. She's emptier than Tony Blair. Wow. And there was a moment when Tom Tugendhat turned to her and said, so what are your actual policies? And she went, well, we need a narrative to lead Britain forward. Well, yes, what is that narrative? What is it, apart from, looking the part for a powerful female Prime Minister? I really don't understand what this penny fever is all about.
Yes, where has it come from? Is her great selling point that she's not Boris Johnson? Clearly, the Tory right and the Brexiteers are supporting Liz Truss. Do we know which parts of the Tory party are getting behind Penny Mordaunt, Olivia? It's a rabble, isn't it?
I think what's happening is that people are just projecting what, they don't like the other candidates. They've decided that there's a sort of Tory that they like who's going to bring the party together. And Penny, by all accounts, is very nice. That's what people keep saying about her, that she's personable and warm and normal, which, to be fair, is quite unusual in a Tory leadership contender. And so she's basically turned into a blank slate. And because she doesn't actually say anything, everyone's just decided that she can be the any other name candidate and projected everything that they want onto her. But I do think that is too slowly, in my view, beginning to disintegrate. The latest Con Home poll shows that she's fallen behind again, and rightly so. So I think that, as you say, she perhaps peaked too soon. People did that at the beginning, and now her campaign's imploding a little bit.
My gut tells me, Olivia, that if Kemi Badenoch makes it to the final two, she wins. But that's a big if, isn't it? And perhaps Maya's right to cast doubt on her chances of actually making that final two.
Well, I know what you're saying, Maya, and I've heard this a lot before, but I do get a little bit sick of it. It was Suella Braverman who did it first, saying, well, Kemi doesn't stand a chance of making it to the final two, so don't vote for her, vote for Liz Truss. And it's like, well, no, if you say things like that, then she won't. But you're shaping the narrative. You're not just describing events as they are. And actually, it wouldn't take very much at all for Kemi to get to the final two. You'd need, I looked at the maths earlier, like geek that I am, but you'd need sort of half of Suella's votes to go, more than half to go to Kemi over Truss, and then you need a few to drop from Truss to Kemi, which seems plausible given Truss's subpar performance in both of those debates. It doesn't take very much for Kemi to make it to the final two. And as you say, I think she might well win, and I really think she would deserve to.
Let's talk about Liz Truss shall we, Maya? Because the issue is she's a very experienced cabinet minister. I think she's reinvented herself brilliantly from having been both a Liberal Democrat and a Remainer. And now she's very much seen as the face of global Britain with those fantastic trade deals for which she deserves credit. The issue with regard to Liz Truss is she's just not a great performer, is she?
That's the point. In politics, it's not really just about delivering. It's not just about having good ideas, because I used to have a soft spot for Liz Truss in the past because of her free market credentials. But Theresa May was good at details, but it doesn't mean that she was a good prime minister. She would make a great cabinet secretary for the civil service, but doesn't mean that you can actually be charismatic. And that's the problem with the Liz Truss that has. And I agree with what Olivia said about what I said, the whole Kemi thing. Yeah, to be fair, I'm not saying that we should be kind of defeatist and this is the end for Kemi, but I would have liked to see more signs from a couple of nights ago after the first debate. I'm sure that everything's happening behind closed doors in terms of the MP's support. But I was expecting to hear more about Liz Truss collapsing, votes going to Kemi. I still haven't really heard that. That's kind of the only reason I'm saying that I'm not confident that Kemi could get it. But if she gets to the top two, I agree. She would defeat Rishi and she would destroy Starmer.
Rebecca Jane, why was Tom Tugendhat there?
Mr. Hot Air himself. We've not got enough of a heatwave. We've got him. Honestly, what is he actually doing? What is he even talking about? There's again, with the public, I feel like there is quite a bit of support behind him. But I don't get it. I just don't understand, because also traits of narcissism coming out. I'm looking forward to being your leader. Shut up.
He was on the front line. Did you not know?
Remember your position and that you've actually got to get there first. I'm not up for him being our leader. No, thank you. He doesn't make any sense to me. All I keep on hearing him saying is, oh, we should do this. And there's that little buzzword that he keeps on doing. What is it?
Clean start.
Clean start. Sick to death of hearing
I want a messy start. Come on, it's time.
What does a clean start actually entail, Tom? Because I don't hear you saying actually anything. Go and take your hot air and clear off.
Definitely. That is more completely sort of meaningless nonsense, isn't it? A very vanilla sort of New Labour type expression. It doesn't mean anything. It sounds like it comes out of a committee. What I also don't like, what I'm sick of, Rebecca, is all these backstories. We heard from Penny Mordaunt. She said, my life is a story of service. And then you had Tugendhat banging on about being in the military. Of course, a very brave man, and we salute his work. I don't care about their backstory. We know, for example, that Rishi Sunak's backstory is one of privilege. I couldn't care less. I just want the best person for the job.
Do you not? Because Rishi Sunak and his backstory, I do care. But if I have to hear Liz Truss one more time tell me where she went to school, couldn't care less. Stop it. We don't care. We get it. You're from Yorkshire. How many times do you want to repeat yourself? But yeah, I do care about Rishi Sunak's backstory. I've actually got quite a few issues with him in general, actually. Matt, did I hear you're in favour of him?
Yeah, he's my preferred option.
You started drinking early, Mark.
For Rishi Sunak to be Prime Minister on the 30th of January of this year.
Wow.
He, as revealed by the Mail on Sunday, ganged up with Lord Frost and Jacob Rees-Mogg to convince Boris Johnson not to cancel Christmas. Rishi Sunak is a well-known lockdown sceptic. Not much talk about COVID measures, Olivia, because I guess most people feel that the pandemic is behind us. But I wonder whether history will look kindly on any figures that push back on the madness of lockdowns.
Well, I really hope and think that they will. And actually, I think there should be a little bit more discussion about COVID and lockdown. I think it's very weird how national memory seems to have sort of obliterated it. And, we could be heading for another pandemic at some point down the line. And I want to hear from all of the leadership contenders that they would never put us through the misery of those prolonged national lockdowns again. So I'd love to hear from a lockdown skeptic. I'm glad you say that Rishi is, but he should be showing off about it if that's the case.
I think you'll agree we're travelling first class with my panel tonight. Next up in the big question, we'll further react to that live TV debate, the second debate, of course, in the race to become Prime Minister. We'll hear from politics legend, ex-Health Minister Edwina Currie, and also serving Tory MPs Alex Burghardt and James Sunderland. We'll find out which way their vote is going. I'll see you in 2.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today. I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked. Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, mate. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Welcome back to Mark Dolan. Tonight, it is our Tory leadership election special with full reaction to that live hustings debate that we saw on ITV at 7 o'clock. Big reaction on email to my big opinion monologue. I'm starting to get, I've got to say, a favourable view of Kemi Badenoch. I've got Kemi fever. This from Kevin, who says, Mark, I like Tom Tugendhat, however, I wish that he and Penny Mordaunt would stop spouting off about their limited military service. I spent nearly 40 years in the army and served in most operational theatres since 1978, including Iraq and Afghanistan. Does that mean I should throw my hat into the ring to be PM? My vote goes to Kemi Badenoch, with Liz Truss a close second. And just briefly, Brenda says, Mark, I'm sick and tired of GB News pushing Kemi Badenoch. The only thing in both debates that she said is that she will tell the truth. She's offered nothing in terms of concrete policies. Well, let's get more reaction now to that live TV debate, the second debate in the course of several debates that we'll be seeing in the run-up to that final poll in early September. And of course, we're going to debate this in the company of a lot of people who know what they're talking about. Former Tory Health Minister, ex-Tory MP Edwina Currie, and serving Conservative MPs Alex Burghardt and James Sunderland. Great to have all three of you with me. Let's start with the legend first. Edwina, who were the winners for you in that particular live debate?
I'm sorry, but I thought the Labour Party were probably the winners from tonight. It was really depressing to see people who had sat round the same table knocking chunks out of each other. They seem to have fallen for the, what question do you want to ask one of the others? And then to use it as an attacking ploy. None of them was terribly subtle about that. And it was not a happy thing to be witnessing. And when they weren't doing that, they were busy issuing lots of platitudes. I mean, the 200,000 of us who are members of the Conservative Party are not stupid. And we know perfectly well that slogans mean absolutely nothing. And that what we really need to know is, what would you do about this, that, or the other? Their answers on the economic policy and what we would do about inflation were all depressingly the same as they were in the first debate. They didn't add anything. And none of them actually came up with a suggestion that we might actually increase the supply of goods, which might bring inflation down and bring it under control. None of them had any suggestions about what to do about strikes. in the end, it was not an edifying thing. That's why I'm looking depressed. Normally, Mark, for you, I do my hair and I make myself look gorgeous. But tonight I thought, I can't. I'm just feeling a bit down about it all.
Tearing your hair out instead. Edwina, you're always gorgeous, and it's always such a treat to have you on the programme. James Sunderland, the serving Conservative MP for Bracknell. Who gets your vote?
My vote goes to Penny Mordaunt. I think she's by far the most exciting of the candidates. She's fresh, she's objective, she's fighting a very good campaign, and I think she has the vision for the future.
She's a bit woke, though, isn't she, James?
Not at all, no. I mean, this is a candidate who nailed her marginal Portsmouth North constituency. It's now a stronghold. She's the daughter of a paratrooper, service family, lost a mother at 15. This is a woman who knows all about toughness and resilience. She has been under attack all weekend and last week. She's fighting magnificently, and I wouldn't underestimate her.
What will she do differently as Prime Minister to Boris Johnson, would you say, James?
Well, Penny said on many occasions this week that she will extract the best policies from Boris Johnson's regime and bring some more of her own. And I think that she's put a marker down in terms of tax. She's not going to promise lots of tax cuts. She's promised to ease fuel duty and to ease the tax burden for the lowest paid. That's the right thing to do. But it's about the team, not about her. This is about the team coming up with good policies. She's got a great team behind her, some really fresh ideas, and I think she's resonating with the electorate.
Lord Frost was the great negotiator who unlocked that Brexit deal, and that was a majestic moment for the country, wasn't it, James? I think we can all agree that he's an impressive figure. This is a guy who asked the then Prime Minister Boris Johnson to move Penny Mordaunt on because she was not an ally in negotiations with the EU.
Well, Lord Frost clearly has an axe to grind. It's interesting, isn't it, that nobody else in government has come back in behind him to corroborate that. In fact, we've had ministers today say the complete opposite. So he's clearly backing Liz Truss, which is fine. That's his call. But let's leave the defamatory comments out of this. Let's keep the bar high. Let's support each other. We're all Conservatives. We're all part of the same team. Let's be objective and kind.
I mean, you say defamatory comments. We have it on statute, don't we, as a matter of national record, that according to Penny Mordaunt, a trans woman is a woman, a trans man is a man.
Well, again, she's clarified those remarks this week. She's been very clear this week. She's not in favour of self-ID. She knows exactly what a woman is, what a man is. She's been a proud champion for the LGBTQ+ community, and that's a really good thing to be. She's also done more for women's rights than most MPs I could mention. So I think we need to give her a break.
And I guess she's not tainted by the mistakes of the current administration.
I don't think she is. I think she's served diligently, loyally in government. She's been a minister almost continuously since 2015. She's kept her head down, done her job. She's been very loyal. That's a good thing. She's a nice, decent, good person.
Can she defeat Keir Starmer?
Yes. I'm told on multiple occasions, on good authority, that she is the candidate that Labour most fears. And in my humble view, she's also the candidate the SNP most fears. She is the one that's going to unite the union. She'll take the fight to Labour. She's very impressive, the dispatch box, and she's absolutely the fresh new leader that we need.
Alex Burgart, who's got your vote?
I'm backing Kemi. And I think it's pretty clear that over the past 10 days, a new force has emerged in British politics, and it's pretty exciting. And Kemi set up her campaign just last Thursday, and the groundswell of support that she's received both within the party and in the wider country has been palpable. And I don't normally read comments on Twitter. I look at the tweets, but I don't go through the comments. But GBNews put out a tweet a couple of days ago about the leadership, because I'm on Kemi's campaign trying to follow things, and I looked at the comments, and I was genuinely surprised by how emphatic your viewers were for her. It was Kemi, 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 all the way down. And if we'd gone back 2 weeks, I dare say that a lot of those people wouldn't have heard her name. But she's sort of set a touch paper going. And I think we're moving into a new and potentially very exciting generation of conservative thinking with this young, brilliant, outspoken woman who came to the country when she was 16, built a life here from nothing, got herself an engineering degree and became a Conservative MP and has become a really successful minister, working across a whole series of departments. She was Economic Secretary at the Treasury. She worked in the Department for Education. Most recently, she's been a Minister of State in the Department for Levelling Up Housing and Communities. And everywhere she's been, she has exceeded expectation. And she said on telly the other day, she said, when somebody said, "Are you sure you're ready to be Prime Minister?" She said, "All my life, people have been telling me what I can't do. I can't come to the UK and build a life there. That I can't get my engineering degree. That I can't be a Tory MP because I'm a young black woman. And now they're telling me I can't be Prime Minister." Let me tell you, Mark, this woman can be Prime Minister. And if we're lucky enough to get her, I think that the country is going to be really, really excited by it.
However, she's never run a big department. This would be a colossal gamble for the country to put her in charge.
A lot of people haven't run a big department before they become Prime Minister. David Cameron hadn't. Tony Blair hadn't. She's worked, as I just said, across 3 major government departments. She's also been a vice chair of the Conservative Party. She's built up a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge. And she's this very practical, no-nonsense figure. She tells it like she sees it. She gets right down into the root of problems. And my political career, I've watched a lot of people trying to work out what the electorate wants to hear and parrot it to them. Kemi's not like that. Kemi will tell you what she thinks the problem is and then what she thinks the solutions are to it. There's just no BS with her, and it's really refreshing.
However, Alex Burkhardt, I do think that it would be a great opportunity for her if she made the final 2. I think she could win in a face-off with the likes of Rishi Sunak. But there's the imponderable, the sticking point. How does she get to that final 2? It's not going to happen, is it?
Look, there is a lot of movement going on in votes. You've got to remember that there are about half of the Conservative Party has not declared which way they're voting in this election. And that means that there is a great opportunity for things to shift around. And we're speaking to people in all camps at the moment who are genuinely interested in her. They didn't think she'd get this far, but now she's into the second week. We've got a lot of interest. And, the people who were ruling her out at the start and saying she shouldn't be running are now taking her very interesting. So don't be surprised if the unexpected happens this week.
Edwina Currie, Kemi Badenoch's got the big mo, hasn't she? Momentum.
Yes, I think she has, and she's a very interesting personality, very interesting. In fact, I think she's got 2 degrees, not 1, and she flipped burgers in McDonald's in order to get through them, which is...
She's nearly as clever as you,
impressive.
Edwina, but not as practical.
Well, let's say I understand where she's coming from. I think she will be Prime Minister, but maybe not this time. One of the effects of this campaign is going to be to put her at the top table with a big job. And then I think we'll be able to see what she's really made of. What would be quite exciting, I think, for the party membership and a bit of a relief would be if we had Rishi Sunak versus Kemi Badenoch, because then I think we would have experience versus imagination, if you like. We would have a real choice. We'd have the 2 best intellects of the 5 we've seen tonight. I really don't credit either Penny or Liz Truss with the kind of intellectual powerhouse brains that Rishi and Kemi have both got. And I think that's what we're going to need. We're facing some really extraordinary challenges in the world at the moment, and it's going to need some new approaches. I don't use the word fresh because that's the one that all the candidates are using, but it's going to need some able people putting their heads together and working as a team. And that's why I'd like to see a bit more respect between them for each other and their teams in the same way. One of the things that makes us Conservatives is we can work together. We can learn from each other. We're fairly pragmatic. We don't stick to the sort of ideas that were developed by some Marxist economists in the 19th or the 20th century. We do look freshly at the problems that we face, and we do try and come up with some new solutions. So for me, Rishi versus Kemi would be a really exciting August, And then I'd like to see what actually comes out of that.
Well, I agree. That is a tantalising prospect and something that I suggested in my Big Opinion monologue on Friday. Can we talk briefly about Liz Truss, Edwina, because you served under the Iron Lady Margaret Thatcher. Is Liz Truss cut from the same cloth?
Oh, I don't think so. I mean, Margaret Thatcher, for a start, had a chemistry degree from Oxford. She was an extremely clever woman. And all the questions that they were asked tonight or the other debate, the previous debate, Margaret would have had a stream of statistics in her head, not on a piece of paper. And she would have been answering this point with 100,000 and the other point with 25 billion. And she would have pointed out, which none of them did, for example, the amount of money that's going into people's pockets to help with inflation, like right now, this month, and in September, and a whole host of other announcements. She wouldn't have missed a trick. She would have known the difference between propagandizing and policy making. Tonight was depressing, not least because we heard an awful lot of propaganda. We didn't hear much else. I want to hear far more detail. I want to see that people have the grasp of detail. I don't think Liz Truss has. I'm certain Penny Mordaunt doesn't have. And I don't think Tom Tugendhat knows what policy is.
James Sunderland, do you think the Conservative Party can heal after this rather bruising election?
Yes, of course it can. And I'm pretty confident, too, that the Conservative Party will unite around whoever's chosen in this contest. I mean, Boris Johnson resigned last week. I think it was right that he resigned. I think most of his colleagues have had enough. And I think ultimately what we've got to do now is to wipe the slate clean as best we can. We've got to clean the party in terms of sleaze. We have absolutely got to unite behind a fresh new leader. I'm backing Penny for that particular reason. She's full of integrity, and she is that fresh, exciting new leader in waiting. And she was very statesmanlike this evening, I thought, at the hustings. So I think we've got to rebuild that trust with the electorate. We absolutely have to become that force that's going to win the next election. And picking the right leader, therefore, is really important.
Isn't the painful truth, though, James Sunderland, that the best candidate to fight the next election isn't on the ballot, and it's Boris Johnson?
I don't agree with that. Boris Johnson is a magnificent character. He was the right person at the right time. He delivered Brexit, got the big calls right. I have no beef with him whatsoever personally. He was very kind to me personally. I think that what we had to do was to make a stand. We couldn't continue. We couldn't keep giving oxygen to the opposition and to the media. And it got to the point where I think that we'd lost that moral authority that any government needs. So we have a great chance now behind one of the new candidates to build moral authority and to go forward and smash the next election, which we're going to do.
James, you've spoken with conviction and authority and authenticity about Penny Mordaunt. So I take your word for it that you'll be with her all the way. In the absence of Penny Mordaunt, who would be your second preferred option?
That's a question I've not really thought about at all. I think people know that I'm so wedded to Penny Mordaunt and her campaign that I haven't given any preferences at all as to who I would vote if Penny drops off. I'm confident that Penny will make the final two, and therefore I'm backing her all the way.
Why don't the party grassroots, James, like Rishi Sunak?
Again, you'd have to ask them. I have no beef either with Rishi Sunak. He's been a good chancellor. He's been there at a difficult time for the country. I know him personally very well. I know all five candidates very well, and I'd back any one of them. So it'd be wrong to ask me who would have the flaws. I think they're all pretty good. And actually, if I'm being completely objective, if you watch all of the debates and all of the hustings over the weekend, there's almost a paper thin between all five of them. They're all good.
Alex Burgart, if Kemi Badenoch falls away from this competition, who gets her votes?
Look, I'm not thinking about that personally. I'm concentrating on getting Kemi elected. And look, the truth is that the media like to think of these sort of big blocks that move around. It's not like that. This is a bunch of highly independent individuals in the Parliamentary Conservative Party. And it's not like Suella Braverman's votes are all going to go to one place. It's not, like Saj's votes or Grant Shapps' votes or Priti Patel's votes all went to one place. They all went all over the place. Everybody has different views and different relationships. And it's one of the things that makes the Conservative Party such an exciting place to be. And we have fantastic talent on our benches. We have a fantastic range of views. But ultimately, we are united by a common set of values and a common understanding that if we leave the country to the Labour Party, they'll make a total dog's dinner of it.
Well, you mentioned the Labour Party finally, Alex Burgard. It's like Christmas has come early for them, isn't it? Watching the Tories infighting like this, navel-gazing whilst Rome burns.
Well, I think they'll be laughing on the other side of their faces when we've got a new Conservative leader that the party's united under. And I know who I think is the best candidate, but I also think that any of the candidates we have up stands a very good chance of destroying Keir Starmer at the next election. And that's what we're going to do as one Conservative party.
Edwina, I understand you've got a vote as well. Who are you leaning into?
Well, I would like the person who is actually the most experienced and who has done extremely well as Chancellor, like Rishi Sunak, to be our Prime Minister. And I think he would do a very good job. He would almost certainly include 3 or 4 of the people that we've seen tonight in his cabinet. I mean, he would have to give Kemi a top job because she has qualified for it in everything that she's done so far in the week since she declared candidacy with an article in the Times. It really made everybody sit up and think, and that's very, very refreshing. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. Of course, what we all have to hope, Mark, I'm sure my colleagues will agree, is that Keir Starmer stays as leader of the Labour Party. He is a gift. We find him extremely useful. He's so wooden. I mean, it's one of the reasons why Jeremy Hunt didn't get into the first round, because there was just something too similar about him. But the Labour Party has some existential issues that it's facing, and it will take them longer than the next couple of years to sort them out. Meanwhile, I think we will go from strength to strength, and I look forward, as my colleagues do, to winning the next election very comfortably.
Well, in relation to this contest, may the best man or woman win. I know it's been a really busy few days for all 3 of you, so I'm very grateful that you've made the time to speak to us on a Sunday evening. Edwina Currie, former Conservative Minister under Margaret Thatcher, Alex Burgard, MP for Brentwood and Ongar, and James Sunderland, Conservative MP for Bracknell. What do you think? Mark at gbnews.uk will bring you some video highlights of the latest TV debate, and that's going to be after the break with my all-star panel. Also, is Rishi Sunak too rich to be Prime Minister? And is Kemi ready for the top job? See you shortly.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today. I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked. Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, Matt. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
You are watching Mark Dolan tonight, and it is our Battle for Number 10 special, reacting to that second live TV debate on ITV this evening at 7 o'clock. I'm going to speak to my panel shortly, but your emails are coming in thick and fast. This from Paul. Mark, not one of the candidates or ITV questions touched on immigration seriously affecting the country, economically, socially, culturally, in housing and all public services. Please point it out to your viewers. Well, that I have just done. Thank you, Paul. Graham says, Jim Hacker is my choice. If only. There you go. That's a reference to Yes, Minister, which is a true classic sitcom. And last but not least, for the moment, Paul says, Mark, if you hear vacuous platitudes with, in the middle, a revealing what we've got to do is look at, then switch off straight away and find someone who gives detail. That was a point made by Edwina Curry. We'll bring my panel in shortly, but here are some highlights, if you can call them that, of the TV debate among the leadership hopefuls. Here's Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak clashing over tax.
Raising taxes at this moment will choke off economic growth and it will prevent us getting the revenue we need to pay off the debt.
I'd love to stand here and say, look, I'll cut this tax, that tax and another tax, and it will all be OK. But you know what? It won't. There's a cost to these things, the cost of higher inflation, higher mortgage rates, eroded savings. And you know what? This something-for-nothing economics isn't conservative, it's socialism.
By the way, where's Rishi's tie? I thought he was a billionaire. Does he want to borrow one? Seriously, come on, fella, it's not Dress Down Sunday. Well, speaking of Rishi, he promised to continue to deliver on Brexit. Here's his clash with Kemi Badenoch.
It's time to move on from Brexit. We left the EU.
It's unfinished business, though,
It is
isn't
not
it?
unfinished business. We got Brexit done.
What about the Northern Ireland Protocol
Now
bill?
it's time to take advantage of the opportunities. We have left the EU. The public is sick and tired of us banging on about Brexit.
Meanwhile, Penny Mordaunt was in a confident mood.
I think there's a couple of things that we need in order to win a next general election. One of them is me as the Prime Minister, because the polling shows that I'm the only one that can beat Keir Starmer and take the fight to Labour. I beat him all over the country.
And how about some closing statements? Take a look.
The stakes for our country are high, and only I have the experience needed to deal with this economic crisis.
I will lead a government of all the talents that unleashes the full potential of our great country.
I moved to this country nearly 30 years ago, and the United Kingdom is a beacon of shining light in the world. That's why so many people want to come here.
Let's get panel reaction now from Maya Toosey, Rebecca Jane and Olivia Utley. Olivia, did you enjoy that feature-length episode of The Weakest Link?
It does feel very much like a sort of reality TV contest or a quiz show, doesn't it? Because they're not getting into any policies in any depth. To be fair to her, I think Liz Truss did the best job of that. I think she does have a sort of economic plan there somewhere, but she couldn't really get much of a chance to get it out. I thought the whole format of it's a bit silly as well. You know, you put them on the spot. It's quite entertaining to watch, but you give them 10 seconds to say their vision for Britain, and it's not really conducive to having a serious talk about policy at all. And Penny definitely showed that she's got absolutely no ideas whatsoever, apart from get Penny Mordaunt into number 10. It's kind of Boris Johnson all over again.
Yes, I agree. And I think, Mayor Toosey, that although they probed each other, I didn't think there was too much conflict. I think they will heal after this.
I mean, the format was, well, slightly more civilised than the last one, Channel 4, but not for good reasons. As Olivia said, there was no real substance. The opposite of too fiery doesn't mean boring. It could still be with substance. The problem I have is that Rishi Sunak and his platform is simply trying to stay away from the fact that everybody else is essentially weaker, overall weaker candidates. They all have their own weaknesses. And then his performance and his aura is slightly better, but everything else about him is wrong. Not just in terms of his persona, his connection to the previous, the current cabinet, And the fact that he says we have to focus on inflation, cutting taxes is not going to work, but he's going to continue to print money. And no one challenged him on that. I mean, that's a sad thing. He's getting away with it because they're kind of, everybody, all the other candidates are only focusing on, oh, did you betray Boris? Or how rich are you? Or any of this. Focus on all the nonsense that's coming out of his mouth. And Liz Truss said it once, which was really good, when she talked about, asked him, do you still want to work with China more? And he couldn't answer the question. That was good.
For sure. Rebecca Jane, do you think Kemi Badenoch is actually ready for the big job? I mean,
he's not.
Are we living in a topsy-turvy world now where, you know, cabinet experience doesn't matter?
Oh, it's a difficult question. She is a gamble. We know that. However, what I was saying before, and obviously they're all banging on about this 5-year, 5-term situation. If they want to get there, which they seem very guaranteed that they think that they are going to get there, then they have to have somebody that the people actually want. She's the person who we want. It seems to be quite loud and clear, bar you, Mark. But I'm going to gloss over that because I like you. But she is the person who is coming out as the forefront runner of all of this. And I do just think that she's the person with the most common sense, the most real person, and she's the less political person, actually, because everybody else is just talking about hot air, and actually, for me, she's just speaking cold-hard truth.
Do you think, Rebecca Jane, is Penny Mordaunt, is she too woke to be Prime Minister? Is she too progressive? Is she too left-wing?
She's just Boris Johnson number 2. She is like, in these debates, I have to say, she's like a person, a presenter who is there with their auto cue and she's forgot her glasses, can't read it, and she just stands there and says whatever she can come up with off the top of her head. She's not the runner of all... I can't get my words out for it. She's not the front runner of this race for me. And actually, I really don't want her in this position whatsoever because she's backed Boris. She is Boris number 2, and we don't need that all over again.
Briefly, Olivia, if Rishi Sunak had not married a billionaire, I think he'd be Prime Minister in September, wouldn't he?
I think he might be. The problem with Rishi is that he just can't seem to stop splashing his cash. So you've got him in £500 loafers on a building site the other day. You know, his coffee cup that costs £200.
That's trivial, though. Who cares, Olivia?
I know. No, I mean, I'm all for aspiration and getting on in life, and there's no way that I think that wealth should be in any way punished. But it is a bit of an odd look when you're the Chancellor that's, you know, overseeing a cost of living crisis to then be such a sort of open about how much money he has. It's quite funny to watch. I saw someone saying it's so true that, you know, the whole Rishi Sunak represents the British dream. If you work hard and marry a billionaire, then you can get up in life. And it does feel a little bit like that. But no, I agree. I don't like the idea of people, on the whole, being punished for their wealth. I just find it quite amusing watching him.
Now, I noticed that I thought the female candidates were dressed very well, looked very professional and glamorous. I wasn't sure about the blokes, especially Rishi Sunak, who wasn't wearing a tie. In fact, Maya Tuesday, you're dressed as Rishi Sunak tonight.
I can't criticise him on that, because I'm wearing the same thing.
You're like a Rishi Sunak tribute act, so I better lose the tie.
I'm storming out. I'm leaving.
Better blend in. Let's hope this is improvement.
I can move it to. I can move it to Tony Blair. Do the sleeves up if you want. But,
did he really? Oh, blimey!
No, I could do that. But the problem we have is actually, to be fair, one of the main problems is you have all these candidates talking about their backgrounds, but the Rishi being rich, people around the country, they have low expectations of Tories being not just moral but also in touch. So they would actually be kind of always pissed off that, you know, you have a kind of Bluetooth coffee mug or whatever, but long term, that doesn't make them kind of vote against them. What would make people vote against Rishi is everything else, despite being rich or not. And that's when actually his wealth technically comes back in, saying that, well, we expected competence at least, but, you know, you're not even competent for a rich guy. That's the problem.
Fair enough. Well, I'm going to go and find my tie now and scrape it off the floor. We've got a really busy hour to come. More reaction. The battle for number 10. Which candidate do Labour fear the most? We'll debate that next. And also, in my take at 10, they want to bring back masks. I'll give my views, and I'm not pulling my punches. Plus, Emmerdale star Fraser Hines. Lots to get through. I'll see you in 2.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today. I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked. Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, Matt. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
That's better. It's 10 o'clock and this is Mark Dolan. Tonight we'll bring you more of the fallout from the second live TV debates among the Tory leadership hopefuls. We'll also look at it from Labour's point of view. Which candidate would they fear the most? We'll find out how the press are reacting as well with a first look at tomorrow's papers in a full newspaper review at exactly 10:30 with panel reaction. My Mark Meets guest is Emmerdale legend Fraser Hines, of course better known as Joe Sugden. He's been in Bond movies, Doctor Who and Coronation Street. He tells his story shortly. Away from the debates, should schools close during the heatwave? And are you ever too old for a tattoo? That's right, are you ever too old for a tattoo? After this, my take at 10. A top medic wants us to bring back masks straight away. That's right. In this lovely, hot, sunny weather. Can you imagine wearing a mask in this weather? You won't want to miss my Take at 10, straight after the headlines with Simon Pusey.
Thanks, Mark. It's 2 minutes past 10. I'm Simon Pusey in the GB newsroom. The 5 remaining candidates in the Tory leadership contest have taken part in the second televised debate, as we've been hearing on Mark's show. Rishi Sunak, Penny Mordaunt, Liz Truss, Tom Tugendhat and Kemi Badenoch all clashed over taxes and the cost of living crisis. The candidates also had a chance to explain why they were the clear choice to be Prime Minister. Liz Truss said the country was on the brink of a recession due to Rishi Sunak's increase in taxes.
The fact is that raising taxes at this moment will choke off economic growth and it will prevent us getting the revenue we need to pay off the debt.
Rishi Sunak, respond to Liz Truss.
I mean, we have to also recognise that we just went through a once-in-a-century pandemic with all the damage that it did to our economy, and I think everyone realises that we were going to have to pay that back. But I'd love to stand here. I'd love to stand here and say, look, I'll cut this tax, that tax and another tax, and it will all be OK. But you know what? It won't.
Meanwhile, Kemi Badenoch accused Tom Tugendhat of not having enough experience to lead the government, accusing him of not having to make tough decisions.
Serving in government is not easy. It requires taking difficult decisions. Tom has never done that. It's very easy for him to criticise what we've been doing. But we have been out there on the front line making the case for why
Kemi, I have been on the front line. I've been on the front line in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Not in government.
And I've been on the front line of the argument against Putin and against China. I've changed government policy on this.
But you haven't taken any decisions. It's easy to talk. Talking is easy.
Meanwhile, Penny Mordaunt says she should be the next Prime Minister, claiming she is the only candidate that can beat Labour at the next election.
There's a couple of things that we need in order to win a next general election. One of them is me as the Prime Minister, because the polling shows that I'm the only one that can beat Keir Starmer and take the fight to Labour. I beat him all over the country. I beat him in London. I'm polling best in Scotland with young people, red wall, blue wall seats. That's why I am subject to a great deal of focus.
Well, some breaking news just in, and that is that an investigation into the Uvalde school shooting that left 18 children and 3 teachers dead says that systemic failures and poor leadership contributed to the death toll. A report by the Texas House of Representatives tried to determine why it took more than an hour for police to confront and then kill the gunman at Robb Elementary School. The committee says law enforcement officers displayed egregious poor decision-making and could have contributed to the loss of life. Authorities say children inside the classrooms called 911 at least 6 times while officers waited in the hallway on May the 24th. Train companies are advising people not to travel over the next 2 days as forecasters predict extreme temperatures. Avanti West Coast has updated its advice to travel only if absolutely necessary, whilst London North Eastern Railway is urging people not to travel at all on Tuesday. The Health Secretary has said extra measures are being put in place for ambulances, with an amber extreme heat warning in for most of Britain today and the first red alert for tomorrow and Tuesday, covering a large part of England, with temperatures predicted to reach 40 degrees Celsius. TV, online and DAB Plus radio. This is GB News. Now it's back to Mark Dolan tonight.
Welcome back to Mark Dolan tonight. Big stories, big guests, big opinions. And of course, the latest on the race to become our next Prime Minister. Yes, indeed, we will react to the second live TV debate that featured on ITV at 7 p.m. tonight. We'll find out how the press are reacting with a first look at tomorrow's papers in a full newspaper review at exactly 10:30 with panel reaction. Plus another topical game show and tomorrow's papers at exactly 10:30 sharp. But first, it's my take at 10. Mark my words, the COVID hysteria isn't over. Even though 3.4 million Brits now have the virus, sorry, I'm still not seeing people collapsing in Tesco's. The maniacal medics and scaremongering scientists are all over the Sunday papers today calling for a return to COVID measures. Can't you just let us enjoy the weekend and this rare burst of good weather? Millions of people looking forward to a few sausages on the barbie and a couple of cheeky ice-cold Budweisers have now got to listen to the likes of world-leading immunologist Professor Dennis Kinane. He spoke to the Daily Mirror newspaper. He wants to bring back masks, and Professor Tim Spector, lead scientist on the Zoe Health study, also spoke to the Mirror, saying, I'd advise people to wear high-quality FFP2 and FFP3 masks in crowded or poorly ventilated places to lower their risk of infection. FFP off. Why the fresh push for masking? Omicron is now milder than a CD of Michael Bublé's greatest hits. When will they accept that COVID cannot be stopped, particularly by flimsy masks? When I chopped up a face covering on the national airwaves in the summer of 2020, it provoked a viral video watched by over 3 million people. It was a line in the sand. I could see where this was going. If we didn't push back on measures like that, we'd be stuck with them forever. We've been gloriously mask-free for the last few months. Armageddon has not ensued, and we've got our mental health back. We've been able to see each other's faces and fill our lungs with fresh air. Kids in classrooms have been able to study, learn, and interact without being muzzled by those filthy rags for which there is no strong evidence they make a blind bit of difference. Masking children as young as 11 in the classroom all day long was a needless assault on our young people. In fact, in my view, covering their little faces was copper-bottomed child abuse. Masks were part of a raft of damaging measures that, in my view, failed. The cost of living crisis is the cost of lockdown. And I say never again. How can these people who destroyed this country who took us by the hand and walked us into hell, still have a mouthpiece, let alone continue to peddle their failed ideas. I wasn't having the masks in 2020, and I'm not having them now. Give them an inch, and they'll take a mile. If they can cover your face all over again, what else will they tell you to do? I personally will not be wearing a mask again. If they cause great distress, then you're exempt. That's right, if they cause great distress, you are exempt. Well, I find them greatly distressing, so I'm exempt. And given their psychological and societal damage, it's reasonable to suggest that everyone's exempt. And remember, it's illegal for the authorities, including a police officer, to seek evidence of your exemption. The words, "I'm exempt," are all you need. You have a legal case for harassment if they go further. The tyranny exacted upon the British people over the last 2 years has left us with a wrecked economy, a mental health crisis, damaged kids, and an NHS waiting list of up to 12 million people. Well done, everyone. Accepting debatable, unproven masks is the first step in a return to this madness. I think the behaviour of the authorities has been very similar to domestic abusers. We've been controlled, beaten up, and told it's for our own good, and in some cases, that it's our fault. Masks have been the first weapon of control, and now those terrifying echo chamber scientists want to bring them back. It's my view that masks are bad for the environment, bad for society, bad for the economy, and bad for you. Just say no. Let's get panel reaction now from columnist, lawyer and presenter Rebecca Jane, political commentator and broadcaster Maya Toosey, and The Telegraph's Olivia Utley. Rebecca Jane, I'm sorry, I'm not having the masks.
Oh, absolutely not. Never again. But to be fair, I didn't do it in the first place. It's like you say, Mark, we got gaslit by our own government. We were told a whole lot of nonsense. When we then questioned it, we were then told that it was our own fault. We were looking after ourselves. And honestly, the damage that has been done from COVID, we must never allow to ever happen ever again. And the unfortunate thing is, you can see it creeping slowly back in again, and masks are the first port of call for them.
Maya Toosey, masks are a hill to die on. A colleague of mine, when I chopped up that mask on the radio in the summer of 2020, said, look, it's not too much to ask. It's a small mark of respect to other people. If it makes other people comfortable that everyone's masked up, it's not a hill to die on. Well, I think it is a hill to die on.
Yes, at the time it was more of a symbolic fight, but then it actually got more serious. So fighting against masks over the last year and a half has no longer just been a symbolic thing. It's actually been stopping it to prevent more restrictions and more kind of lax powers that you give to the state. I'm not really comparing it on the same level, but after the Iranian Revolution, the first few weeks and few months, in 79, there was basically the clergies and everybody else were going around saying, oh, women should be more modest and cover their hair. And a lot of them basically, like sheep, started following it. And then peer pressure started, telling all the other women to actually start wearing it. And then no one opposed it. And then it became mandatory, and they couldn't stop it anymore. And now it's still mandatory in Iran, covering your hair. Not really comparing this level of authoritarianism or for the actual intent, but if you don't stop now, it will continue to get worse and worse.
Olivia Utley, I don't have a problem with people wearing masks. I'm a libertarian. Do what the hell you like. Put whatever you like on your face. But enough already with this mission creep, which involves controlling our lives.
Absolutely, and I agree with what Maya says there. It's obviously, wearing a mask isn't the biggest imposition in the world, but it's a sign that you're willing to put up with measures that restrict your freedom. And if you're willing to put up with measures that restrict your freedom, you appear ready to take on more lockdown measures. And we know, I hate saying slippery slope argument because I know it's a cliche, but it's actually true in this case. And that's without even mentioning the very practical, real, everyday effects that masks have on people. I mean, we've seen the amount of damage that lockdown has done to children. Masks is just the very, very tip of the iceberg. But you've got children who literally haven't seen an adult's face apart from their parents' face until they're 3 years old. That's completely absurd. And who knows what sort of damage it's doing further down the line. We're not yet able to see what damage is being done, but we're already seeing kids at a year behind in school on academic terms, 2 years behind on social terms. I mean, that's deeply worrying. Then the effect on people who can't hear. I've spoken to a deaf guy who just found the last 2 years basically impossible. He's dependent on lip reading. And, you know, as I say, that's just the very, very start of it. Then you've got the horrible mission creep. So I agree with you, Mark. It absolutely is a hill to die on.
Not everyone agrees. Stephanie has emailed the programme. Stephanie, thank you so much for your email. Stephanie says, I've got no problem wearing a mask. It's not too much to ask, and it's about protecting the vulnerable. Don't be so selfish. Stop thinking of yourself. And Adrian says if we have to wear masks in hospital as staff or visitors to enter, you would have to wear one, Mark. If it's in a place to wear masks in hospitals again, then you've got to follow the rules. I've never had COVID or a cold for over 2 years. That's with wearing a mask. Up to you, mate. Adrian, thank you for that. And Stephanie, it's all about opinions. Keep them coming. Mark at gbnews.uk. It's time now for Mark Meets, in which I speak to the biggest names in the world of politics, showbiz, sport, business and beyond. Tonight, legendary soap, TV and film actor Fraser Hines. His career began auspiciously as a child actor, appearing in A King in New York with none other than Charlie Chaplin. He later played Jamie McCrimmon in Doctor Who, when it wasn't so woke, appearing in over 100 episodes, more than any other companion to the Good Doctor. And he went on to achieve legendary status in the role of Joe Sugden in Emmerdale Farm between 1972 and 1994. He's done it all. TV dramas, comedies like The Catherine Tate Show, and even a Bond film with Sean Connery. Plus, he survived a brush with death when suffering from colorectal cancer in 2010. It's been a great career, but the story continues. And I'm delighted to say that Fraser Hines joins me now. Hi, Fraser.
Hello, hi Mark, hi everybody. At last,
really,
we've clicked on.
We're so glad to have you. Unfortunately, it will be slightly shorter interview because we did have some technical issues, but great to have you on the programme. 22 years on Emmerdale, 1,515 episodes you've appeared in. Is a long-running part in a soap a blessing or a curse?
Well, for me, I think it was a blessing. Although I was well known from Doctor Who, I'm still the longest-running companion in Doctor Who, and so I was also known going into Emmerdale. I was one of the sort of people who are known from TV. So it was a blessing in one way. But I always think I'd try and get a long-running show, trying to get an accent. So Jamie McCrimmon had a Scottish accent, and Joe Sugden had a Yorkshire accent. So if you hide behind an accent, you're fine.
Do you miss any of the characters that you've played? Do you miss being Joe Sugden?
No, because it was very difficult. You know, we really had to work. Freddie Pine and I, we really had to work. Whatever the farm was doing, we had to do that real job. And also the dialogue round. So if we're sort of shearing a sheep, and I'm talking about Ma, it's very difficult holding a sheep on its back and saying, anyway, talking about Ma, and you're shearing away as a sheep with its legs in the air.
Never work with children and animals. How did Emmerdale Farm evolve in the years that you were on that programme?
Well, I started off in 72, and it was on a real working farm. We actually had to do all the jobs. And then when I left after 11, 12 years. I got married, then I got divorced, and my mother died. So Sheila Mercier, Annie Sugden, rang me and said, oh, darling, you're not having any luck. Come back to your other family. So I rang the producers up and said, can I come back for 6 months? And I lasted another 6 years.
What do you make?
Yorkshire helps.
Well, that really helps. What do you make of Emmerdale these days? It's a bit more racy, isn't it?
Well, people say that, but in episode 10 or 12, Sharon Crossway, played by Louise Jameson, was actually murdered by Jim Gimble. The actor was Miles Reitherman, and she was murdered, and Joanna Wally Clymer, who married Val Clymer, she was raped in about episode 20. So it was very, very racy, the first sort of 20 episodes.
But also, doesn't playing one character for 2 decades, doesn't it send you a bit crazy in the head?
No, because I'm quite down to earth. I rode as a jockey. I had a jockey's license. So when on my days off, and a horse doesn't care if you're Richard Burton or Fraser Hines or whatever. If it wants to run off with you, it'll run off with you. So, you know, that was a great level for me. Kept my feet on the ground, even though I was on a horse up here.
And what a start to your career. You're in a movie with Charlie Chaplin, the greatest legend of silent film.
I know. Whenever I go to a party and somebody says, "Oh, Ian McKellen said to me, Lawrence Olivier," I said, "Well, Charlie Chaplin once said, and the knives and forks clatter, Mark." They go, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I was 11 years old, and I did a thing called King in New York." And he took to me. I made him laugh. And the next day I said, "Mr. Chaplin, I've got an idea for comedy." And instead of him going, "I'm Charlie Chaplin, I'm starring, directing, producing, acting in this film," he said, "What's your idea of comedy, Fraser?" And I said, "Well, you've got a fur hat. If I put some cream on it and you put it on, would it be funny?" He said, "No, I'd see the cream. If you make it into a cake and I sit in it, then we have a comedy." He listened to an 11-year-old kid. And that's what, if I do pantomime now, and one of the babes says, "Oh, Fraser, I've got a joke. I never say, "Listen, kid, I know enough jokes." I always listen to those kids, because Charlie Chaplin listened to me when I was 11 years old.
When I think about it, I would suggest he's the greatest figure in the history of cinema, not just silent movies, a proper icon. Was he a nice man? Did he have an ego?
No, he was a lovely man. He was very firm. As I say, I made him laugh. He made us kids laugh. I've got a lovely photograph of three of us going, ha, ha, laughing out loud. But one guy, he missed his cue a couple of times, and Charlie went, "I don't think we'll be needing that young boy anymore." And a pal of mine, Colin Small, a fellow actor, he said, "Fraser, I think you're one of the few actors alive that worked with Charlie Chaplin." And I thought, gosh, yes, you're right, because he won't have worked with many kids. So I'm one of the few actors in captivity that worked with Charlie Chaplin.
Did he have a certain way of working? Was it inspiring to see this guy on set?
It was, and he was directing his son, Michael Chaplin, and they were having a bit of an argument. Well, Michael was only a young boy as well. But he didn't take it out on him. He said, "No, this is how we do it. We do it like this, we do it like this, we do it like this." But then he turned to us, and he just left us, and we were just, as I say, I've got a lovely photograph. I wish I could show you of us going, laughing our socks off.
Amazing. You've also been in a Bond movie. That must have been a proud moment. With Sean Connery, You Only Live Twice.
Well, actually, it was my voice. I was going out with a lovely actress called Pamela Franklin, and she said, "Oh, Peter, the assistant director, he wants you to do some dubbing." So I went to the dubbing studio, and it was Mr. Osato's secretary, who was Japanese. So I went, "Stop that astronaut." He was, no, Fraser, no. I don't want you to do a Japanese accent. It's because his accent is not understandable. Just do it ordinary. So I go, "Stop that astronaut, T-7, and it's my voice, but it's a Japanese face."
You starred in Doctor Who. Actually, you were in the 60s. You came back in the 80s. Over 100 episodes. Did you think when you first appeared on that show that we'd still be watching it 5 decades later?
I never. When I left the show, I mean, I didn't want to leave, and my agent was saying, "You must leave, you must leave." But I was having so much fun. But Doctor Who has taken me to America, New Zealand, Australia, Sheffield. It's taken me all over the world from a children's TV show.
And what's next, Fraser? Because you've had a great career, but, you know, so much more to offer to the small and big screen. What are your ambitions? What would you like to do next?
Well, I'd love to do a Western. And there's a possibility of doing a Western in October. A pal of mine in America, he's a producer-director, and he knows somebody who's making a Western, and he suggested I would be great, because I love horse riding, obviously. And I sent him a couple of pictures of me with a moustache looking really mean, and hopefully that. And I've got a movie out at the moment called Lost at Christmas. It was on BBC Two over Christmas, and it's still there. And we shot that entirely on location in Scotland.
Oh, that's wonderful. Lost at Christmas. Catch up on the iPlayer. I do hope to meet you face-to-face very soon, Fraser. Wonderful to speak. Too short, but I look forward to our next encounter. Fraser Hines.
What do you mean? Are you saying I'm too short?
You're the perfect height. I wouldn't change a thing. Brilliant stuff. Thank you, Fraser Hines. There you go. Proper TV royalty. Next up, Which candidate in the race for number 10 do the Labour Party fear most? Find out from my panel, plus the papers at exactly 10:30 sharp with their verdict on the second televised contest for the race for number 10. See you shortly.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today. I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked. Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, Matt. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Back to the hot topic of the evening, the leadership debate. And now what we're going to do is ask which candidate Labour will fear the most. I'm delighted to welcome back my brilliant panel of Maya Toosey, political commentator. We also have the Telegraph's Olivia Utley and broadcaster and lawyer Rebecca Jane. Olivia, which candidate do Labour fear the most? In my big opinion monologue, I said that if Kemi Badenoch wins, their heads will literally explode. An anti-unwoke, anti-PC woman of colour that flipped burgers at McDonald's. I mean, that gives Keir Starmer nothing to work with.
Exactly. I hate to sound.
It's a mic drop, isn't it?
It really is. I feel like a stuck record about Kemi. I do love her, but what? It would just pull the rug out from under his feet completely. How could he stand there at the dispatch box saying Britain's a racist country and we need to subscribe to critical race theory and tell children that because they're born white, they're automatically racist, opposite a young black woman saying Britain's the best country in the world and I'm proud to be British and it offers people like me opportunities like being Prime Minister. I mean, as you say, a total mic drop.
Tonight, she said in her closing statement that Britain is a beacon of light around the world, which is why so many people want to come here. I could just sense the Tory grassroots melting at that line.
Absolutely. And, you know, this whole leadership debate, it's quite funny how without any effort, really, and purely on merit, you're looking at a very, very diverse range of leadership candidates. And the Labour Party go on and on and on about trying to be more diverse and how we've got to do these quotas to implement new levels of diversity. And quietly, the Tory Party's just done it through merit. And Kemi Badenoch, I think she's brilliant, not because she's a woman of colour or because of her backstory or anything, but because she has real answers to the genuine questions facing Britain today. And she's normal and charismatic and easygoing, and she has absolutely everything it takes. So definitely, Keir would be most scared of Kemi.
I mean, Maya, I can't decide in relation to Rishi Sunak. I'm torn because I think on the one hand, he's a great performer. Yep. He's also a coherent thinker, and he's been at the Treasury for an important couple of years. And the crisis we now face is an economic one. So I do believe that, you know, that cliche, I'm ready to start the job on day one. It couldn't be truer of Rishi Sunak. Plus, he's a man of colour as well. But his wife's a billionaire. There's all of the non-dom stuff. And that's a gift for Labour, isn't it?
To an extent, as my ITC look like, Rishi is I mean,
by the way, can I say you're way better looking?
Oh yeah, I know.
I think Rishi's a hottie, but he's not your level. Rishi's an 8, you're a 10.
Thank you so much. Thank you. But no, I mean, to be fair, those things could potentially not matter long term. I was going to say, definitely, I agree with both of you that Kemi would scare them, but there's another second option. It's going to be controversial. If it goes the right way, Rishi Sunak could also be scary for Labour. If he wins the leadership, and he's still got about a year and a half, couple of years till the election, if he could, you know, make some changes in terms of his persona, in terms of getting stuff on the right track, which I don't really have faith on.
You know, what you're saying is if he could come in and actually do a good job for 2 years.
Exactly, which I don't
be a good Prime Minister.
Which I don't believe they could, but you know, if he could, the Labour Party will also be absolutely scared of him as well, and their Bluetooth coffee mugs would be meaningless at that point, because the David Cameron and all the stuff about him at that point and the Panama stuff, they don't really care as much as if you actually get things done and if you're competent. The problem they have, as I said earlier, is that it's not that he's rich, is that he's rich and incompetent, Rishi Sunak. That's the problem they have. Well, that's what they see him as. Otherwise, Kemi is scary for Labour, not necessarily just because they can't use the race cards against her anymore, or the Tory party, but actually, despite what people say that, oh, is she ready, or, you know, and does she have the experience? She has a great brain, and she's attracting a lot of good brains around her, and they will be scared of her because she's got good ideas as you know, leader and Prime Minister. That will be absolutely terrifying.
Terrifying's the word. We're just about to get to the papers, but let me ask you, Rebecca Jane, about Penny Mordaunt. She eviscerated Angela Rayner at the Dispatch box a few months ago. Many people think Penny Mordaunt could beat Keir Starmer into a cocked hat.
I mean, who is even backing her? I don't understand the points that she's actually any good. What am I missing?
Well, I find it hard to defend her because I also I don't see it myself. But the Tory party faithful, you know, they're out there, you know, 365 days a year campaigning for the cause, and they seem to like the woman.
They do, but they also seem to like Boris Johnson at one point as well, and look how that's turned out for them. So, no, I'm not bothered about her. The Labour Party need to fear a person who actually has the public behind them, and that's not Penny at all. I mean, or am I missing a point?
Her own colleagues don't have confidence. Every single candidate always said during these debates that, you know, I will beat Starmer. The moment Penny said, I will beat Starmer, they all laughed.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's a debate. I know they all kind of have to be...
They weren't having that.
They have no confidence in it.
That's not true.
Exactly.
No.
That's not true.
Yeah.
Fighting like rats in a sack. Sounds like the GB News Christmas party. It is 10:30, so it's time for tomorrow's papers. Hot off the press. Now, what do Fleet Street think of the debate we've seen? We'll start with the FT. Here we go. Battle looms over plans for city shake-up to prime Big Bang 2.0. Big story for the economy there. And health alerts for record heat beyond the pale, say the FT, who are sidestepping that Tory leadership debate story, probably because they went to press before it finished. Metro next. Meltdown Monday. Britain's hottest day is forecast. It's set to top 40 degrees centigrade for the first time. Unprecedented red health alert. Who is the weakest Tory link? Going, say the Metro. Final candidates line up for a game show-style debate programme with ITV's Julie Etchingham. The Guardian red alert, ferocious heatwaves set to send temperatures beyond 40 degrees centigrade. The Guardian there really loving their fear porn as they take over from the pandemic and move across now to climate. Tory leadership debate exposes deep divisions, say The Guardian. Rishi Sunak accused his rival Conservative Party leadership candidates of promoting socialism by promising unfunded tax cuts, as the deep divisions in the party over economic policy were exposed in a bad-tempered television debate, say The Guardian. As the contenders clashed repeatedly over tax and spending in the ITV debate, Liz Truss confronted her former cabinet colleagues, saying, Rishi, you've raised taxes to the highest level in 70 years. This is not going to drive economic growth. The fact is that raising taxes at this moment will choke off economic growth. There you go. Tories at war. The Daily Telegraph. Heatwave meltdown brings UK to a halt. More's the pity. And rivals accuse Sunak of leading the country into recession. The Eye newspaper, Mordaunt and Truss, number 10 rivalry ignites. Yes, indeed, rivalry, say the Eye newspaper, between Penny Mordaunt and Liz Truss for the second place in the leadership race intensifies, with Mordaunt calling for an end to toxic smears. Truss denies being behind attacks on Penny Mordaunt after she suffered a weekend of questions about trans rights and her record as a minister. That's not a smear. That's just literally drawing attention to what she's done and what she said. The Independent next. McIlroy loses to Smith in Open drama. Cameron Smith wins the 150th Open Championship at St Andrews. Real shame that Rory didn't quite cross the line, but he'll be back. Protect UK from extreme heat, ministers urged. What a terrible word that is, protect. We've been protected for 2 years, folks. Could do without that. Ministers have been urged to take action to make Britain fit to cope with extreme heat as the country faces temperatures above 40 degrees centigrade for the first time. The Daily Mail next. And Mordaunt flouted number 10 ban to meet boycotted group. Penny Mordaunt last night faced fresh questions over her judgment for meeting a controversial Muslim group despite it being subject to a government boycott. The Tory leadership hopeful was a minister when she met the leader of the Muslim Council of Britain. In 2009, the government introduced a policy of not engaging with the group. But Mordaunt went her own way. J-Lo no more. I'm Mrs. Affleck now. Great news for J-Lo and Ben Affleck, who appear to have tied the knot. The Daily Star now, it's Siesta Britain. 40 winks, 40 degrees centigrade winks. Nation urged take afternoon naps to beat intense heat. UK's the world's hottest place after the Sahara and the Middle East. 999 getting extra staff to help cope with the health crisis. And last but not least, the Sun newspaper. It's Super Scorchio, hotter than the Sahara, running with that stat as well. Hotter than India and Pakistan and Algeria and Ethiopia. There you go. At least for once, we're number one in something. And those are your front pages. Well, there you go. It's all about the Tory leadership battle. A big focus, Mayor, on leadership battle causing division within the party. I asked a Tory MP earlier in the show whether he thought the Tories could recover from this. James Sunderland, Tory MP for Bracknell, and he said, yeah, we'll all reconvene and we'll all be best mates in September. Do you buy that?
Absolutely. The whole party is it was born like this and it operates like this. If anyone watched the movie Godfather, Michael Corleone was told that the families of 5 families, every 10 years, you need a good war to get rid of the bad
Is Boris Don Corleone because he's got his figure?
I think Boris is... I can't remember the name.
No, you know what Boris is? Boris is the horse's head on the pillow.
That's true, so true. But,
Boris is sinking to the bottom of the Hudson River.
Oh, God.
Encased in concrete.
But before it gets more criminal, let's move on. But no, I think, to be fair, the main point is the Tories, they have this messy thing, not regularly. It's, every once in a while when they have to go through this. And the rest of it, the whole party is always divided. I think they always hate each other, but they know that there's a bigger goal out there, which is basically win power, exercise power and prevent the opposition. So they don't like each other, they just have to respect each other and work together, which, doesn't really work because look at the cabinets. Every single time they're still divided. So they will get back together. It's fine, but the whole system is kind of not fine.
Olivia, I found the spectacle of tonight's debate quite healthy. It felt democratic, like the party's having a really big conversation about itself and about Britain. What's not to like?
No, I completely agree. And I think that there is a very important conversation that the Conservative Party and the country both need to have of, is this Conservative government, low-tax, small-state Conservative government like the governments that we used to know, or is it a sort of social democrat government in the model of Angela Merkel's government that hands out money, puts an arm around the people, spends as much as it can and has to tax people as a result? And I think it's really important that we do have that conversation. And we saw here, I think, in the most open way we've seen so far, the two sides of that debate represented really by Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss. And Rishi Sunak says he wants to concentrate on inflation, and in his head, that means he's got to balance the books immediately, pay for the COVID lockdown immediately by raising taxes, keeping them raised, and that's the top priority. Liz Truss says that actually paying for the COVID lockdown immediately isn't the most important thing, and actually we can borrow a little bit, and that's OK because interest rates are still very low. And she says that the top priority is cutting taxes, making Britain a tempting place to invest, stimulating growth. I'm not a huge fan of Liz Truss because personally I think she's a bit weird, but on that, I absolutely agree with her. And I think, as you say, it's democracy in action, and Conservative members are going to be able to decide, do we want a small state, low-tax Conservative government, or do we want what Boris Johnson has given us?
I think she's quite a wooden performer, but what makes you say weird?
It's the weird sort of side looks and it's not very deep. I'm being a bit shallow here, but
that's part of politics, isn't it?
She's just a bit odd. I think the country will think.
Is it Theresa May, Mark, too? The slightly more right-wing Theresa May?
Yeah, the kind of awkward.
Yeah, right-wing Theresa May. That's a good way to say it.
It feels like she's being told to smile and.
Also, is there a risk with Liz Truss that she'd be in the pocket of the Tory right?
No.
Interesting. I do think she's a little bit of a flip-flopper. I mean, there's a good argument that she's grown with experience. And,
Ex-Lib Dem, former Remainer.
Former Remainer, exactly. But it is a little bit suspicious how many times her politics has changed. And under David Cameron, I don't remember her being really a libertarian even, let alone a sort of Thatcherite conservative. She was just another kind of modernising, bland kind of a minister. So I do think that perhaps she might be overly swayed. Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about her electorally, but I do think that on taxes, she did represent the Thatcherite side of the argument very well indeed.
Yes, you are in Fleet Street. The Tory press do not like and do not want Penny Mordaunt. Here's the headline in the Mail. Mordaunt flouted number 10 ban to meet boycotted group. This is the kind of dirt that gets dished when a newspaper and people sending stuff to that newspaper have an agenda.
Yes.
I mean, this is a project, isn't it, to take her down?
It's definitely a project, but I think, well, from what I've heard, from who I've spoken to, it sounds like the agenda is a very sensible one, because why people who work in Fleet Street are worried about her is because quite a lot of them have dealt with her and think that she is incompetent. Lots of people who work in Fleet Street have previously had various roles very close to government and have found that she's just not really up to the job. You've got Lord Frost, who's one of our columnists, who said on LBC and wrote for us as well that she just wasn't very good. She was his deputy minister, and he had to move her out because she just wasn't capable of seizing hold of her brief at all. So I don't blame the Mail for dropping this bomb.
Where she was.
No, she apparently didn't really want to come back to the office after lockdown as well as a minister, and some of her junior ministers had to step in and do the work that she wasn't really capable of doing. So I think the Mail's quite right to be throwing as many grenades as they can at her campaign.
I think Olivia's spot on. You have good media hit jobs and you got witch hunts. I like Andrea Leadsom. I was actually early on supporting her in 2016, but obviously looking back, she wasn't ready, and there was this media hit job on her, similar to the Penny stories. That
was the Theresa May interview, wasn't it?
But there was more.
I'll be a better candidate because I've had kids.
Yeah, but there was more. Before that, you had the CV situation, you had so many stuff, and at the time, her supporters were saying, oh my God, witch hunt, witch hunt, witch hunt. But actually, it was because she wasn't ready. And, not that we have to put our faith into Fleet Street to do the job for democracy that bring down candidates. No, but you're right. That, if they have basically, they are the witnesses that they've dealt with these people, then, that media hit job would do a good job for the country.
Although I wonder, you're a lawyer, Rebecca Jane, whether this is akin to, or it's in the territory of character assassination.
I don't think so. I think that we have national interest to protect. And I think that if people are trying to out the truth because the truth is being buried from us, it's within our interest to know about it. And absolutely, I want to be hearing about it now rather than if, oh, for goodness sakes, she ends up in power. Let's hope that doesn't happen. But no, absolutely, I think it's completely right. I don't think it's a witch hunt. I think it is people that know that she's completely incompetent, and let's not let it happen.
Allegedly, of course, we should say that. And, I did speak to James Sunderland, who's a really, really respected MP. He's backing Penny Mordaunt, and you know, that certainly raises her in my regard because he certainly knows his onions and he's a good guy. But look, it is all about opinions, isn't it? Yep. Elsewhere in the press, from tomorrow's papers, The Independent, protect UK from extreme heat, ministers urge. And I think most reprehensibly, I would argue, in The Guardian, red alert, ferocious heat waves set to send temperatures beyond 40 degrees centigrade, with a photograph of firefighters working to contain a blaze near Lucats as wildfires spread in the Gironde region in southwest France. I'd argue that's misleading, Rebecca Jane, because it just looks like Britain's on fire.
This looks like a war zone.
It is misinformation of the highest order.
It is misinformation of the highest order. And, you know, we're not talking about war. We're talking about 2 days, a bit of warm weather. Calm down.
And also, don't you think that that photograph perhaps is designed to actually have echoes of COVID?
Yes.
Because the firefighter is masked.
First thing I thought.
Like a hazmat suit, you know? And I just think that this is irresponsible of the media. The bottom line is, Maya Tuzi, that we have survived as a species for 3 million years. We've evolved. Most of us, not everyone, I hasten to add. And we have a mechanism that if we're dehydrated, you have this thing called thirst.
Yeah.
And if you're hot, you go in the shade. And vulnerable people will stay in.
All that's been stopped. Normal humanity has been stopped. We talk about a lot in these shows about the political parts of what's going on. That over the last century, the West has become prosperous and educated. We've also become too dependent on the state on a political level, economic level. But also now, since COVID and everything else, people now depend on someone telling them if they can do something or not. And this is kind of slightly embarrassing. The issue we have is that there was certain other news channels today, they were putting up the map and they had the same numbers on them that they had last year. Last year was more orange. Today was like red. What is going on? What is the purpose? Is it just to get the ratings? Or is it like, are you being lobbied by certain vested interests? I don't understand what's going on.
I think it's a template. I just think that they've sort of replaced COVID with the heat wave. And after the heat wave, it will be climate change.
Yes.
Climate change and COVID will be back.
Which, by the way, the weather and climate change will slide into each other, won't they, Olivia? But I think that a lot of the public are really fed up with this.
I really hope so, because there's just always a reason to stay at home now. Always. It was lockdown, and then we had the storm Eunice or whatever it was, which seemed to last for weeks. And then we had all the strikes, and now you've got the heat wave. And I was noticing it was during the strikes. I was at a train station, and there was an announcement over the tannoy saying, do not travel unless you absolutely have to, or don't travel if your travel is unnecessary. Well, all travel is necessary. You know, who are you to decide what travel is necessary?
Especially when the economy's broke, so even if you're just travelling to buy a coffee, that's a contribution.
Exactly. And this idea that the sort of status quo is to stay at home on your sofa and leaving your house is actually a sort of slightly eccentric indulgence just seems to be being perpetuated all the time. And there's always some sort of excuse for it.
With the unions now looking for protection for workers, if the temperature rises above 28 degrees. 28 degrees that's a cold day in Tenerife in July. That's a bit brisk.
We were all year to get to the hot weather so we could go to Spain. Why are we complaining?
What about Dubai? Everyone goes to Dubai now. 41. Yes, I can see it. And finally on this, Olivia, Julie Etchingham, brilliant broadcaster, ITV. I thought she did a great job tonight. But she did seem to be part of that establishment media mentality when it came to the weather, because she referred to the weather at the moment as a killer heat wave. So, I mean, this is straight out of, like, Jaws and Steven Spielberg, isn't it? Killer heat wave.
It really is. And
inflammatory language.
It's only lasting for 2 days. It's going to be 25 degrees again by Wednesday.
No.
It's freezing on Wednesday.
16 degrees
It's
is
raining
where I
on
live.
Wednesday,
16 degrees on Wednesday. We're talking about 2 days.
I'm going to Ibiza anyway, so I'll survive.
And also, I don't want to go on about it, but you're too late. That ship's passed. But there's 40 degrees.
Yeah.
Right? What that means is that on Tuesday, for about 11 seconds, it will be 40 degrees.
Maybe.
In Heathrow Airport.
Yeah.
Literally,
On the middle of the runway.
Fly there, flat on the runway, which obviously there's no planes flying, so you'll be safe. But it will be, you know, in the beautiful northwest, it will be like 28. And I was like, what's the fuss about? There you go. Look, lots more to come. My brilliant producer, Tom, has actually compiled a gallery of all of the 5 main candidates, and we're going to do a style guide. That's right, who looked the best tonight? And we won't be sexist, because we're going to talk about the boys and the girls. Rishi, no tie, what do we think about that? Plus another great British game show. Also, is it ever too late to wear a tattoo or to get a tattoo done? Is it ever too old? And should schools be closed during the heatwave? See you shortly.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today. I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked. Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, Matt. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Lots more to come, including another game show. And still with me, my brilliant panel of fantastic broadcaster and lawyer Rebecca Jane, Maya Toosey, political commentator and YouTube sensation, and the Telegraph's Olivia Utley. So much more to get through. We're going to play another game show. But in the papers, a lot of concern about young people and kids during this mini heatwave. So it begs the question, should schools close on Monday and Tuesday? What do we think? I got an email from my son's school saying some of the older years will work from home, but luckily my youngster will be going in.
I just think that children can't miss a single another day of school. The damage that's already been done over lockdown, we're seeing it beginning to feed through already, and it is just the very beginning. We don't know what the long-term effects of this lockdown are going to be. So the idea that kids should miss education every time there's an extreme weather event just strikes me as absurd. I do think that it won't be, it'll be awful, actually, for some people without any air conditioning or ventilation tomorrow and the next day. And we should have had a proper heatwave strategy in place. But to say, throw up our hands now and just say no one can go to school, no one can go to work is just not possible, not plausible. We can't do it.
No, I tend to agree. Look, we promised you a bit of a gallery, a bit of a fashion show among the Tory leadership hopefuls, a style guide, because Rishi Sunak sparked controversy by not wearing a tie. Clearly a strategic decision, one he made about a year ago when he started this campaign. So let's take a look at Rishi Sunak, and I'll get the comments of my panellists. What do we think about the shirt, the tie-less look on the shirt? Is that working for you, Rebecca Jane?
I'm all right with it. However, I do think that it sends out a bigger message that he's actually just playing a bit of a game with his outfit. Yeah. And that's my concern behind it.
It looks too much like I've decided not to wear a tie.
Yeah, I've made a decision to look more down with the people to hide my millions. It's not really working for me, unfortunately, but the look's lovely.
Maya, Rishi Sunak, Toosey, what do you think?
Yeah, I said it perfect, because as someone who's not wearing a tie right now, I'm not a tie guy. Perfectly said it. It's a try-hard move. You can feel It's different to if like someone else, again me, and not wearing a tie. You're like, oh, he doesn't wear a tie, but he just looks a bit weird. And I don't know. Maybe he should just wear a hoodie because I don't know.
I mean, it's a hot night, Olivia. He looks smart though.
I think the problem that poor Rishi Sunak faces is he's just so polished looking that whatever he wears, he looks like a billionaire. And so he's always trying to dress down. You see him in a hoodie, but somehow his hoodie just looks so sparklingly fresh and like a straight out of the packet.
The Britain's only dry clean hoodie. A quick word on Liz Truss there in a red dress, looking smart and not doing a Margaret Thatcher look-alike on this occasion.
In a Labour colour.
Yes, wearing red.
I'm so pleased to see one of them not wearing blue.
I thought she looked brilliant, actually. And then how about Kemi Badenoch now? Let's do the style guide. We've got to do boys and girls, only to be equal.
Yeah.
Very muted colour. Pastel pink.
I think she looked good, but she's been doing that too often now. She needs to be a little bit more statesman. I don't know.
I'm sick of the jackets, all the suit jackets. I think it's nice to see woman wearing a dress.
Kemi's also lost the glasses. I like the glasses. It gives her a bookish air.
I like the glasses as well, yeah.
Like Thelma from Scooby-Doo.
I want to
She's got great...
And Mark Dolan.
Basically, I wanted to look like me.
Fantastic highlighter, though, on her cheeks.
Well, I think so. Is that a win for you, Kemi's outfit?
Yeah, I like that. She wins for me.
Rebecca, be honest. Tough love.
No, I think it's too... Again, it's trying too hard to be normal. Come on, give us some power. That's the only thing in her campaign where we're a little bit doubtful. So go on, give it to me with your outfit.
You know what she's doing, though? She's waiting. She's waiting for the last one.
So.
Yeah, she'll have plenty more in the wardrobe. Brilliant stuff. Well, look, it's been... Oh, I think... Have we got any others? We've got Penny Mordaunt next. Well done, team.
Forgot about her. She's invisible.
And we got Tugan hat as well. Right, electric blue.
I like it.
Yeah. Someone said she was like a Prime Minister in a high-budget drama about a woman Prime Minister, and that's exactly what she is.
So that sounds about right. Yeah. And poor old Tom Tugendhat should have gone to Specsavers.
Yeah, off you go. Go home.
Either lose the bins or get a decent pair.
Oh, I didn't mind them. I think it looks great.
He's sold on Frontline, so it's OK.
He didn't do the try too hard to be too cool with the kids because he went with the whole blue theme as well.
Yeah.
No, off you go.
Yeah. There you go. Well, listen, it's been a really, really busy and I've got to say personally enjoyable show. I really hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. I can only thank my fantastic panel of Olivia Utley, Maya Toosey and Rebecca Jane. We've debated about all the candidates. We've been pretty hard on Penny Mordaunt tonight and I'm sure that she'll make a great Prime Minister if she gets the gig. And as I always say, whoever wins, they will get my backing because that's how democracy works. I always support whoever our Prime Minister is, whatever their political colour. Here's what I would say. May the best man or woman win. It's also been a really busy and fantastic weekend. We had some great guests, but I couldn't do any of it without you. So if you're enjoying the show and the channel, please tell your friends, tell your family, and let's change the world together. Stick around because I'm doing headliners next. What a show.
Fabulous. Well done.
Loved it. So good.